Zane, now a valued member of the Hall of Elixirs, was settling into his new life. But his problems weren't over yet. Greg, still nursing his injuries, was fuming. Greg, seething with anger, stormed into Zuri's room, seeking revenge for his humiliation.
No, it's Zane. His swordsmanship is really strong. He even hurt one of my arms to prove it. Moreover, Zane has become an alchemist apprentice of the Hall of Elixirs. He told me as long as he is working for the Hall of Elixirs, he'll never provide me with medicinal pills. Zuri, we're in deep trouble now.
Zuri, a 9th stage body tempering expert, listened to Greg's complaints with growing concern.
What did you say? That Zane has become an alchemist apprentice of the Hall of Elixirs.
Zuri, realizing the gravity of the situation, immediately began strategizing.
This time, Naren really gave us a hot potato. He's just a boy reporting to the Hall of Elixirs. What can he even do to us? Senior Naren said that Zane is very strong. He has many tricks up his sleeve that we shouldn't overlook.
Zuri, concocting a plan, whispered it to Greg. Meanwhile, Zane, determined to prove himself, headed to the Hall of Foreign Affairs, where the outer disciple rankings were displayed. In one corner of the Hall of Foreign Affairs, 4 slabs displayed the rankings of the outer disciples of the 4 academies. Zuri was number 8, while Yanni was number 2. Zane, ready to challenge Zuri and Yanni, approached a disciple from the Hall of Foreign Affairs.
I'd like to challenge Zuri and Yanni.
The disciple was a little surprised when he heard Zane. He scanned Zane up and down. He was somewhat at a loss for words. Stunned by Zane's audacity, the disciple tried to dissuade him.
I don't want to drag you down, but Seniors Zuri and Yanni are well into the 9th stage of body tempering. You'll be a dead man if you challenge them with your current strength.
It's fine. Besides, one person must die during the challenge. If anything happens, I shall take responsibility. You don't need to worry about it.
The disciple, amazed by Zane's confidence, accepted the challenge. After a while, the disciple said to Zane,
It's really strange. Seniors Zuri and Yanni actually want to mess around with someone like you. They've accepted your challenge. Meet them 10 days later on the arena near the entrance to the Azure Dragon Academy.
Zane, eager to prove his worth and silence his critics, was determined to make his mark in the Five Spirit sect. He challenged them not only for Barnabas and Wade, but also because he wanted to establish his reputation amongst the outer disciples. He had to prove that he was no pushover. Only then could he be rid of these unnecessary troubles. Just as he was about to leave, he saw several people standing in another corner of the Hall of Foreign Affairs talking about something. At the Hall of Foreign Affairs, Zane noticed a mission posted on a stone tablet. The mission: capture the goldbiter rats on Burial Mountain. Reward 3 marrow-purifying pills and capture a rank 1 demonic beast on Burial Mountain. Reward 1 advanced-grade lightning fragment. Zane's heart raced with excitement. He had recently learned about the importance of 5 elements fragments, particularly lightning fragments, for enhancing his cultivation.
Wasn't this meant just for me then? I should check it out.
After being part of the Five Spirits sect for a while, Zane had gained a greater understanding of cultivation. After cleansing himself 3 times at the 9th stage of body tempering, his body would form more seeds of vital energy. However, that was still far from enough. Advancing to the foundation realm still required the absorption of 5 elements fragments. The so-called 5 elements fragments were magical objects that represented all 5 elements and contained pure vital energy. They were the size of a thumb. The yellow-colored bead that Vaniel had given Zane back then was the earth element of the 5 elements fragments. By absorbing the 5 elements fragments, the inert vital energy within the fragments will be activated in the body. This would increase one's vital energy levels and strength. Aside from the 5 elements fragments, special fragments were representing, for example, the wind element, dark element, and the thunder element that martial artists acknowledged as the strongest. However, lightning fragments were extremely rare. They could only be found by chance. Therefore, there were only a handful of martial artists with thunder element vital energy. Zane could barely believe there was a mission to hunt down a Foundation Realm demonic beast that came with an advanced grade lightning fragment reward. Zane sought out Zeke, the issuer of the notice, to learn more. Zeke was in his early 20s. He looked very ordinary, and his face was pale like wax. He looked like he couldn't be recognized in a crowd. Vital energy was overflowing from his body like a flood, for he was at the first stage of the Foundation realm. Zeke agreed to explain the mission. He asked Zane to prove his ability to use Thunder Element skills.
Here.
Zane, summoning a small thunderbolt from his finger, proved his ability to harness lightning power. Zeke, impressed, explained the details of the mission.
As long as you're willing to help me, I'll hand over the lightning fragments in both my hands before we leave to catch the beast.
It's a deal. I'll head home and get ready. Let's set off in 3 days.
Zeke, slightly unnerved by Zane's aura, watched as Zane left. Zane, in turn, went straight to the dragon prison. He knew that this mission would require all his skills and abilities. As Zane practiced his skills, he made many surprising discoveries about the 8th stage of body tempering. In just 3 days, Zane had achieved the 8th stage of body tempering. He had, however, utilized medicinal pills to accelerate his progress. 3 days later, Zane met Zeke outside the gates of the Five Spirit sect, accompanied by a tall man with a face full of dimples. This was Leo, a 9th stage body tempering expert. The adventure was about to begin. The three set off on their mission. The journey through the dense fog and treacherous terrain was arduous, but Zane remained alert. The three walked slowly because of the thick fog. The wild and violent waves of vital energy in the air were like earthworms trying to squirm into his body, and Zane tried to restrain himself from absorbing them. Ancient towering trees were the only landmarks they could see through the thick fog, which made the surrounding burial mountain very desolate. Zeke, who was leading the group, frowned. He stared at a map in his hand with a serious look on his face. If it weren't for the map that Zeke had, they might have completely lost their way.
This way.
Zeke was in front, followed by Zane in the middle and Leo at the back. Along the way, Zane was quietly thinking about the mission. Although he couldn't tell what was wrong with it, it seemed that everything was going too well right now. In other words, the reward was too generous for this mission. Therefore, along the way, he not only had to guard against wild demonic beasts that might ambush them at any moment, but also against these two companions whom he barely knew.
Everything is going too well right now. The reward is too generous for this mission. There might be some other dangers that they wouldn't tell me.
After hours of trekking, they reached the Crescent Cliffs. The trees had long vanished, leaving behind only desolate plains and rocks visible to them. The only thing that didn't change was the overabundance of vital energy in the air.
You two, look around for caves.
However, these words immediately caused Zane to become suspicious. His expression changed and he questioned Zeke.
Caves? Why would a white jade-toothed boar be in a cave?
Just now, I was walking and felt something was a little strange. There were footprints of the boar in the forest.
Why do we have to walk so far beyond the forest? Senior Zeke, I'm afraid the purpose of this trip isn't as simple as I thought, is it?
Zeke was caught off guard. Stunned by Zane's question, his mind went blank for a moment. Leo and Zeke looked at each other as if they were hesitating about something. In the end, Leo sighed and told Zane the truth.
Ugh, it's a shame you're so alert, Junior Zane. It looks like we can't hide this from you anymore. Yes, we aren't looking for a white jade-toothed boar. We found a formation by accident before around these parts. The only way to activate the formation is to use a thunderbolt against it. Junior Zane, that's where you come in.
You lied to me just so you could decode a thunder formation in a cave? Ha! How do you sleep knowing you tried to trick me like this? How do I know if you have any other strange thoughts about me?
Zeke, realizing there was no point in denying it, apologized.
That's true. Why else would we need to give away an advanced grade lightning fragment in exchange for hunting a mere first stage Foundation realm demonic beast? Now that I've told you everything, are you going to leave just like that, Junior Zane?
Since he was aware of the true nature of the mission and there were probably some more lightning fragments within the formation, it was indeed impossible for Zane to simply leave. However, he knew he still had to keep his guard up against Zeke and Leo.
Of course I won't. But if anything happens to us, don't blame me for not going easy on you.
Zane, still wary of Zeke and Leo, followed them into the cave. The entrance could only fit one person at a time. It was surrounded by soft mud. The passage in front of them was well chiseled, and there was a small square made of rock at the end. Some people must have chiseled the rocks here, then abandoned this place on purpose. When they reached the square, there was a dim light and the air was very turbid. A humid odor filled the whole space. They reached a spacious chamber where a massive thunder formation, crackling with energy, hummed in the center. The intensity of the thunder caused the entire cave to shake. There was a skeleton lying on the gold-colored formation. Its clothes were in tatters and no one knew who it used to be, but there was a small pouch beside it. Could it be that Zeke and Leo had come for that pouch?
Everything is now up to you, Zane. As long as you're able to crack the formation, the three of us will get an equal share of the spoils.
He smiled and made a gesture for Zane to go ahead. Zane, despite his lack of experience with formations, felt an instinctive connection to the thunder. Zane, channeling his dark domain sky thunder, sent bolts of lightning into the formation. As Zane's energy coursed through the formation, he realized that something wasn't right. Zane, trapped within the cave, watched the thunder formation as it slowly calmed under the influence of his dark domain's sky thunder. The thunderbolts on the formation seemed to have been controlled. The glow of the formation that encompassed the square gradually dimmed before finally fizzling out. Zeke and Leo, seemingly pleased with Zane's progress, had other plans. Zeke, revealing his true intentions, turned on Zane.
Ha ha. Zane, you're very good. Looks like I wasn't wrong to ask you for help this time around, but I don't need you to worry about what happens next. Senior Nerin asked me to pass on a message. He said I will be rewarded handsomely if I bring you back dead.
Zeke had a twisted expression on his face as he set his eyes on killing Zane. He raised his hand, aimed at Zane, and shot out a large wave of vital energy from his palm. Zane, his expression turning cold, realized that he had been tricked. Zane, determined to survive, ran towards the center of the formation.
Fortunately, I didn't believe you two from the beginning. I'll see what Nerin has to say when I'm alive. Both of you won't have to trouble him.
Zane, with lightning speed, returned to the formation, reactivating its power to deflect Zeke's attack, and the thunderbolts appeared in his hand once again. The thunderbolts were absorbed along with Zane into the formation, and its lightning was suddenly reactivated. The formation deflected Zeke's attack with a deafening sound. Zeke, enraged, threatened Zane, vowing to kill him.
What? How dare you do this to us, Zane? Get out of there right now. Great, just great. I'd like to see how long you can hide inside there. As soon as you appear, I'll kill you immediately.
He was so angry that he thumped his chest and stomped the ground. In the end, he simply sat cross-legged with Leo and kept watch of the thunder formation. He didn't believe that Zane would spend the rest of his life in there. Inside the thunder formation, Zane was frowning. 1,000 thoughts flashed across his mind. Leo, who was at the 9th stage of body tempering, could be killed easily. But that wasn't the case for Zeke, who was at the 1st stage of the Foundation realm. He shook his head. Since there was nothing he could think of, for now he was better off heading for the skeleton and examining it for anything useful. The skeleton had been there for a long time and there were no identifying items on it. The only thing left intact was the cloth pouch in his hand. He discovered that the pouch containing advanced-grade lightning fragments and a wind fragment. Zane, thrilled by his find, decided to use this opportunity to enhance his cultivation. He sat down cross-legged, pinched the round and numbing lightning fragments with his fingers, and slowly absorbed its vital energy into his body. Perhaps it was due to Zane having once practiced from the Book of the Divine Thunder, but the pain brought about by a thunderbolt entering his body wasn't too much for him. He watched as yellow vital energy slowly made its way to his elixir field before surrounding the pitch-black seeds of vital energy. All of a sudden, the seeds of vital energy absorbed the elemental energies. Zane shivered. Zane, absorbing the lightning fragments, felt his vital energy surge. Outside the formation, Zeke and Leo waited impatiently. A day and night had passed since they had left the Five Spirit sect, but the duo outside the Thunder formation still had no intention of leaving.
This time I want to see just where you can hide, Zane. Leo, let's go all out to destroy the formation.
Zeke and Leo unleashed a powerful combined attack on the formation.
I have to reach the 9th stage of body tempering as soon as possible before I have the chance to fight Zeke,
Zane said to himself. Zane opened his mouth and poured a whole bottle of marrow-purifying pills into his mouth that formed a warm current in his stomach. He quickly started to cultivate the dragon-devouring emperor technique. The vital energy was like a clear stream of spring water that cleansed even the impurities in the deepest part of his internal organs. It was like a wave rolling, non-stop. 4 days had passed. The thunder formation on the square was no longer as powerful as it was before. It was on the verge of collapse. The dazzling lightning bolts that had dominated the formation seemed to be greatly reduced. Only a couple of tiny thunderbolts were still guarding the formation. Their attacks managed to break apart the formation, and it fell into pieces in the center of the square. The chamber filled with smoke and dust, obscuring Zane's whereabouts. Zane, his eyes glowing with a deadly light, had escaped the formation and unleashed a devastating attack. A shockingly sharp silver ray of light emerged from the smoke, accompanied by a sword aura that made the disciples tremble with fear. The ray of light flickered around the cave. Everywhere it passed, rocks were reduced to powder. Leo was careless and could not react in time.
Oh no, get out of the way.
Leo, caught off guard, was struck by the blinding silver light. His head rolled to the ground, and a stream of blood gushed out of his broken neck. The air hung thick with the smell of ozone and blood. Zeke watched in stunned silence as Zane withdrew his sword from the fallen Lu Ming. It was over in an instant.
Zane!
Waves of vital energy erupted from Zeke as he charged into the dissipating smoke, a whirlwind of fury. Zane stood calmly, the sky cloud sword humming softly in his hand. The air crackled with power.
Separation of vital energy.
Zane struck. The air itself seemed to shriek, cleaved in two by the raw power of the blow. A wave of suffocating energy slammed into Zeke.
You're at the 9th stage of body tempering.
Zeke, fear lending him strength, slammed his foot into the ground and slapped a ring on his finger. A black blur shot from the ring, intercepting the killing blow a heartbeat before it landed. The shadow reappeared behind them, resolving itself into a sleek panther with eyes like blue fire. Its fur seemed to drink the light of the cave, leaving only menace. Zeke, eyes locked on Zane, felt a chill crawl down his spine. He knew Zane was favored by Naren. But this? To kill Leo so easily?
Was this the true strength hidden within the 9th stage of body tempering?
The panther growled, a low rumble that echoed through the cavern, and turned on Zane. It was a first-stage Foundation realm demonic beast.
An elemental panther?
Zane's face hardened. To face Zeke alone was a risk. To deal with a creature infamous for its speed and lethal ambushes, at the same time bordered on suicidal.
Zane, you've made a grave error killing Leo. Surrender and I might yet show mercy.
Mercy? And let you finish the job? If I don't kill you, you'll kill me. And don't worry about Naren, he and the others he sent. They'll be joining you soon.
dissolved beneath its attack. The two remaining figures were already moving, sprinting in opposite directions before merging again in the distance, resolving into Zane's true form. The second stance of the 3-star step, unlike the first, was less about raw speed and more about confusing the enemy. Perfect for this confined space.
Zane, you forced my hand. One of us walks out of this cave alive, and it won't be you.
Zeke roared and charged, the Panther flanking him. Two opponents, both at the first stage of the Foundation realm, pressed the attack. Zane knew one misstep, one moment of hesitation would be his last. He moved again, his form flickering as he became 3, weaving between the attacks of his opponents.
Cloud dispersing palm.
Zeke thrust his palm forward. Waves of energy, almost invisible, rippled outwards. Deceptively slow in appearance, they moved with the speed of sound. One of the illusions vanished, dispersed by the attack. But it wasn't Zane. Across the cave, the Panther slammed into another illusion, jaws snapping shut on nothing. And all the while, the real Zane was moving, circling, setting his trap. As Zeke and the Panther closed on what they thought was their prey, Zane struck. Silver lightning, crackling with annihilating power, erupted from his palm. It arced across the cave, a bolt from the heavens aimed directly at the Panther's skull.
Palm of lightning.
The Panther, caught completely off guard, let out a screech of pain as the lightning slammed into its flank. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air as the creature crashed to the ground, still alive but badly wounded. Zeke, seeing his Panther fall, felt rage consume him. He might have reached the Foundation realm, but in that moment, all he felt was the burning need to crush Zane. Zeke, consumed by rage, found himself outmatched. Zane was simply better, faster, more skilled, deadlier. Even having reached the Foundation realm couldn't bridge the gap. Desperation crept into Zeke's eyes.
Mysterious water realm.
A palm-sized mirror, formed of shimmering water and ringed by tiny ripples, materialized between Zeke's hands. He gripped the mirror, held his breath, and swung it towards Zane with all his might. A cluster of fist-sized bubbles, perfectly transparent, shot from the mirror, hovering between Zeke and Zane like a bizarre barrier. Zane paused, unsure of their nature, unwilling to risk whatever trap they might contain. Escape was starting to look tempting. Return to the 5-Spirit sect, deal with Zeke later when he least expected it.
3-star step, second stance.
He didn't hesitate. Zane's form blurred, becoming 3 identical figures, each weaving a path between the floating bubbles with the grace of a striking cobra.
Explode.
The bubbles detonated simultaneously, filling the cavern with a blinding flash of light and a deafening roar. Dust billowed outwards, momentarily obscuring the outcome. As the clouds settled, Zeke stood, a cruel smile on his lips, staring through the haze at where Zane had been.
Is that all you can do?
But Zeke's confidence was misplaced. Zane was unharmed, his own attack already forming. The sky thunder of the dark domain crackled in his hands, stronger than ever.
Cloud dispersing palm.
Zeke didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, both palms thrust outwards, waves of condensed vital energy rippling towards Zane.
Palm of lightning.
Their palms met. For a heartbeat, there was only blinding light and the roar of unimaginable power. Waves of raw energy slammed into the walls of the cavern, threatening to bring the whole place down around them. Then silence. The light faded. The dust settled.
How dare you? That's impossible.
Nothing is impossible. Just die.
Zane poured every ounce of his strength, every drop of his fury into the attack. The lightning intensified, became a blinding sun, and then Zeke was gone. Only a faint smell of ozone and a charred corpse remained. Zane, his chest heaving, collapsed to the cavern floor, utterly drained.
This time, if not for Palm of Lightning, I would be dead. I need to learn more martial skills.
After a long moment, Zane pushed himself to his feet. He walked slowly towards what remained of Zeke, his face an emotionless mask. Zane wasn't the type to walk into danger unprepared. He'd done his research on Zeke, a nobody, early 20s, outer disciple of the White Wolf Academy. Average talent, elevated only by a mid-grade spiritual body, and the arrogance that came with recently breaking through to the Foundation realm. Zane stared down at the charred remains of Zeke. He'd seen the power of a spiritual body firsthand, back in Sun County, when his own dragon-devouring spiritual body had devoured Freya's iridescent serpent. An idea took root in his mind. Zane extended a hand, placing it on the charred forehead of the corpse.
Sea engulfing curse.
The air around Zane crackled with unseen energy. Behind him, a shape began to form, a gaping maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. The temperature plummeted. Even the injured elemental panther whimpered, shivering uncontrollably. The monstrous jaw behind Zane dropped open, and in a heartbeat it lunged forward, swallowing the charred corpse whole. A moment later it was gone, vanished as quickly as it appeared. On the ground, where the corpse had been, a fist-sized droplet of liquid shimmered. Before the droplet could even fall, a long black tendril shot out from beneath Zane's sleeve, wrapping around the droplet and dragging it back towards him. It vanished beneath his robes with a faint sucking noise. This was the sea engulfing curse, a technique both terrifying and invaluable. It couldn't harm the body directly, but it could steal an opponent's talent, their very potential, leaving them a husk. It was a power Zane was only beginning to understand, but one he knew would be invaluable. He turned his attention to the whimpering elemental panther. It was injured, could be put down easily. But a Foundation realm demonic beast was nothing to sneeze at. Their speed and ferocity were legendary.
If I could tame it.
But demonic beasts were notoriously difficult to subdue, and this one had already been bound to Zeke.
You're a Foundation realm beast. You must have some intelligence.
Zane leveled his sky cloud sword, the tip coming to rest beneath the panther's jaw.
Submit to me, become my familiar, or join your former master. 10 seconds to decide.
The panther, caught between terror and the primal instinct to survive, thrashed weakly. Zane smirked. He sheathed the sword and, with a gesture, banished the panther to his spirit cultivation ring. He'd deal with the contract later. He needed to get back to the Five Spirits sect. The Crescent Cliffs were close to the Five Spirits sect, but the dense jungle and ever-present mists meant what should have been a simple journey became a 2-day ordeal. Zane moved like a ghost, leaving no trace of his passing. He hadn't taken any trophies, anything that could be traced back to him. Not even the bodies of his victims remained. He slipped back into his residence, exhausted but alert. He was greeted by a sight that nearly made him choke. Penelope, sound asleep on his bed. She was dressed in flimsy sleeping clothes that did little to conceal her curves. Her hair was a mess and she muttered something in her sleep. Zane stared, speechless, for a moment before he found his voice.
Penelope.
Penelope's eyes fluttered open, bleary at first, then widening in horror as she saw Zane. Her face turned crimson as she scrambled to her feet, desperately trying to adjust her clothes.
Where were you last night? Why are you back so late?
Where I go is none of your business. And how is it you're in my room? Am I really that irresistible?
He settled back in a chair, nonchalantly sipping from a teacup as Penelope fumed.
How dare you? I wouldn't be here if Senior Lily hadn't asked me to check on you.
Senior Lily? Why?
She heard about your little disagreement with Zuri and Yanni. She says your alchemy has impressed the deputy hall chief, that you could be a master in time, but you need to stop acting like a lone wolf and making enemies.
Zane hid a smile. Lily meant well, he knew that. She had no idea just how dangerous a lone wolf he could be.
Tell Senior Lily not to worry, I have it handled. By the way, you spend a lot of time in the Hall of Elixirs, right? I'm looking for a certain herb, ground blood herb. Here's what it looks like and its properties.
Zane offered Penelope a scrap of paper, but she didn't take it. Old resentments lingering from their first encounter hadn't faded.
Why should I help you? I'm very busy.
Who said anything about doing it for free? A little something to show my appreciation.
He held out a high-grade wind fragment, the same one he'd taken from the corpse on the Crescent Cliffs. Penelope's eyes widened. Common 5 elements. Fragments were easy enough to come by, but wind and lightning fragments were rare. As Zane had expected, she snatched up both the fragment and the paper in a heartbeat.
Fine, I'll see what I can do, but no promises.
She turned to go, then paused, unable to resist adding one final jab.
And Zane, try not to get yourself killed, all right? It wouldn't just be embarrassing for you, it would be a waste of talent.
And with that, she was gone. Zane chuckled softly to himself. He had a feeling that waste of talent was going to be a recurring theme in their interactions.